around the turn. Now Freehouse has the lead by a neck, and on the outside, Silver Charmer second, Concerto 3 wide in third. On the inside, Touch Gold is fourth. Captain Bodgett, threading his way between horses, is now in fifth position. On the outside, Frisk Me Now is sixth. A tight pack as they straighten away in the lane in the Preakness. Freehouse in front. Silver Charm on the outside coming on to challenge. Touch Gold at the rail, and down the stretch they come in the Preakness. On the inside, Freehouse. On the outside, Silver Charm. Noses apart. 50 yards to go. Freehouse and Silver Charm. Captain Bodgett is flying. Photo finish. Was it Silver Charm on the outside? Was it Freehouse on the rail? Neither jockey raising their arm in victory. It's a photo finish, noses apart. What a finish. Freehouse on the inside, the gray. Silver Charm on the outside with Captain Bodgett third, only a whisker away. There's...
Here they come, spinning out of the turn.
Well, hello again. This is the Preakness version of Spinning Out of the Turn. First, though, let's look back at the Kentucky Derby for just a couple minutes. A very exciting race, despite the rain. Horse people never like to have it rain, but there's nothing we can do about it. But just looking at a couple of the also-rans in the Derby, Mendelssohn was the big question horse before the race, and he certainly had a horrible trip. He did come in last. A lot of people criticize him for that, but breaking out of stall 14, the last stall in the main starting gate, as expected, he moved to the right, to his right, because there was no horse there when they first broke. The 15 horse broke fine, but the 16 horse came all the way to the left, hitting the 15, and then both of them came into Mendelssohn. So within 20 yards of the starting gate, he had already been bumped heavily. Coming down the stretch and down to the finish line the first time, he was bumped 2 or 3 times. He rallied from there, and going around the far turn and up the backstretch, he was in the front group of horses, the last one of the front group. And you could just tell by looking at him, he wasn't real comfortable running on the mud. And by the time they got to the quarter pole, he had pretty much packed it in. And then smartly, Ryan Moore, the jockey, did not persevere with him down the stretch and just let him canter home, if you will. So it's a little misleading to say he came in last. The good news is Aidan O'Brien, his target is the Breeders' Cup Classic. And the good news is he is committed, or at least intending, to bring Mendelssohn back over here in August to get a race on a track here in the States. It's probably going to be Saratoga. And if it's Saratoga, then you would think it would be the Travers, which would make the Travers extremely entertaining and something to greatly look forward to. So I think Mendelssohn will come back. I certainly haven't written him off. Audible came in, ran a great race. He was behind horses. As they ran into the far turn, had to wait for a few minutes. Castellano took him to the rail. He closed valiantly on the rail. He was not going to threaten the winner. No one did. But he did run very well and answer the question, is he a 1.25 mile horse? I think the answer to that needs to be yes. The other things I'd mention is the horses that were closing at the end. Instilled Regard, I think, was one, and My Boy Jack. They were passing tired horses. It's an illusion that they were running that much faster or running fast. They were just running faster than the horses slowing down, so neither one of them appealed too much to me.
Top of the stretch with Justify the one to catch. Here comes Good Magic on the outside for the final quarter mile. Justify turns for home in front. Good Magic in a full out drive with 3/16 to go. But Justify and Mike Smith are digging down on a 2-length lead. Good Magic is wandering about the track from far behind. Audible rallies to be third. They're coming to the final 16th, and it's Justify and Good Magic and Audible. Justify in a 2-length lead. Final try from Good Magic. All rise for Justify. The Kentucky Derby was never in doubt. Wins by 2.5. It's tight for second between Good Magic and Audible. Instilled Regard was fourth.
So moving to the Preakness. I'm doing this before the draw, so it's a little speculative, but every indication is there's going to be 8 horses in the Preakness. And some facts about the Preakness. 24 of the last 27 races since 1991, the winner of the Preakness ran in the Derby. Didn't necessarily win the Derby, but ran in the Derby. So all this talk about new shooters and Quip and horses that are coming from another racetrack, I've immediately discounted all 4 of those horses. They're out. You can't buck the trend of 24 out of 27, especially with the favorite we're going to have. Backing that up, the favorite has won the Preakness 50% of the time in the history of the race. That is a very high percentage, very high. The longest odds were 24-1, Master Derby in the mid-70s. So we come down to the 4 horses that ran in the Derby. Justify, who we'll come back to, Bravazzo, Good Magic, and Lone Sailor. I'll throw Lone Sailor out, hesitantly, but I'll throw him out. Good Magic ran a wonderful race in the Derby. He just wasn't going to beat Justify. I'm sure in the Preakness they're going to send Justify to the lead like they did, and they're going to send Good Magic to stay as close to him as they possibly can. I don't think it's going to change the outcome, but it should be a very interesting race down the backstretch. The other horse that ran in the Derby that's running in the Preakness is Bravazzo. He closed well. He ended up somewhere in the neighborhood of 6th, 7th, 8th. He's a Dwayne Lucas trained horse. Lucas loves the Preakness. He's won it multiple times. He's the if you want to bet a long shot, that's the horse to bet. Now, he may only be 10-1. He probably deserves to be 20-1, but I'm going to put a few dollars on him to win simply because of Lucas. I don't expect him to win. Just a little background again on Pimlico before we talk about Justify. Pimlico has been around since the late 1800s. I don't think it's been renovated since the late 1800s. It's in the city of Baltimore, just north of downtown. It's landlocked. There's neighborhoods all around it. I was there in 1978 to see Seattle Slew win his Preakness on the way to his Triple Crown. It's not a very comfortable track. It's not a very big track. It's now owned by Frank Stronach, and in all likelihood, you're looking at the second to last Preakness ever run at Pimlico. They'll run next year contractually, but after that, there's rumors that he's going to take the race to his other track in Maryland, Laurel Racetrack. So a little bit of background on the Preakness and on Pimlico itself. So the big story was Justify. He certainly lived up to his billing. Now, some people complain about the finishing time being so slow, which it certainly was, but you need to look a little further. And the commentators on TV were all talking about how blistering the pace was, how fast it was. Well, here's how fast it was. The first quarter mile was the 3rd or 4th fastest quarter mile in Derby history. And I say 3rd or 4th because it used to be measured in 1/5 of a second. Now it's in 100ths, so that you can't hardly equate them. But the 3rd or 4th fastest, and I can guarantee you the other horses that were in the top 3 or 4 fast quarter miles, they were not there at the finish, unlike Justify. It was about the 8th or 9th fastest half mile. Again, the other horses that were faster than him for a half mile, they weren't there at the end either. So he went out and set a blistering pace, and basically Bolt D'Or, a horse I liked, tried to keep up. He was valiant. He tried to stay with the pace, but he was empty by the time they got to the quarter pole and had nothing left. And thankfully, the trainer's looking for him to run on the Metropolitan Mile, which should be a great race on the Belmont undercard. So Justify turning for home. No one ever got close to him. Smith was hitting him left-handed down the stretch. And he may not have been running that fast, but there was no indication of him not wanting to go further or not being able to respond if a horse came up to him. So again, he lived up to his billing. I expect him to win Saturday. The odds won't even be worth talking about. But just as a note, very strange things can happen at the Preakness. Anyone that's followed horse racing can rattle off like BBB beating Riva Ridge and other again, upsets. But I don't think we'll see one this week. I predict Justify will stay unbeaten. He's got a couple things to overcome, one of which is he's never raced 2 weeks since his last race. So that's going to be a challenge for him. Other horses have had a hard time with that. They're advertising. They're predicting rain for the track. Obviously, he's proven over the wet track, so that shouldn't bother him. Again, it's only a 1/16 of a mile shorter than the Derby. He should be able to handle it very well. If you want a long shot, I'll give you Bravazzo. Good luck.